I used to wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach, the kind of dread that doesn't have a name, but it weighs on you like 1,000 bricks. I'd lie in bed, frozen, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I was supposed to make it through another day. The world felt overwhelming. Every sound, every conversation, every decision felt like an attack. I wasn't living. I was surviving. And barely at that. People told me to meditate, to journal, to do yoga. I tried them all. They helped temporarily, but nothing ever stuck. Nothing ever shifted the core of what I was feeling. It wasn't until I discovered one shockingly simple habit, something so small, so basic, most people dismiss it entirely, that my anxiety began to lose its grip. And no, it wasn't some new supplement or a trendy breathing technique. It was something older than any self-help book. Something you already do, but probably don't do consciously. But before I tell you what it was, let me take you back. I remember this one afternoon. I was in the grocery store. The hum of the fluorescent lights, the chatter of people, the sound of carts rattling across the floor, it all felt like too much. My chest tightened. My vision narrowed. My body went into full alert, fight or flight. But I wasn't in danger. I was just buying eggs. I abandoned the cart and ran out. I sat in my car, sweating, shaking, and ashamed. That was my breaking point. Not because it was the worst panic I'd ever had, but because it was so ordinary. My life had become unlivable in the most mundane ways, so I went home and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I sat down. No phone. No music, no distractions, just me. I didn't plan it. I didn't set a timer. I just sat. And in that stillness, something happened. I noticed my thoughts, really noticed them. Not just the loud, chaotic ones, but the subtle ones, the whispers, the inner critic, the assumptions I carried, the constant predictions of disaster, the judgments, the fear of not being enough. And then I did something radical. I responded, not with panic, not with distraction, but with the habit that changed everything. I started talking back. You see, the habit that ended my anxiety wasn't about stopping the thoughts. It was about not believing them automatically. It was about interrupting the mental script I'd rehearsed for years. I developed the habit of catching a thought and challenging it. One simple phrase changed the way I interacted with my mind. Is that true? That's it. That's the habit. Every time my brain whispered, "You're going to mess this up," I paused and asked, "Is that true?" Every time it told me, "They're going to judge you," I asked, "Can I be sure?" When it said, "You can't handle this," I challenged it with, "Have I handled worse?" And more often than not, the answer was yes. What shocked me wasn't that the thoughts were negative. I already knew that. What shocked me was how easily I believed them, as if every fearful thought was gospel, as if my brain knew something I didn't. But here's the thing no one tells you about anxiety. It's a liar. A skilled, convincing, manipulative liar. And we give it power every time we accept its voice without questioning it. The mind is like a scriptwriter that never sleeps. It crafts worst-case scenarios, edits your memories, and predicts failure with Oscar-winning creativity. And the habit I built was simply this. I stopped letting that script run without edits. Now, don't get me wrong. The thoughts didn't stop overnight. They didn't go away. They still show up. But the difference is, I don't let them take the wheel. Let me give you a real example. I had an important meeting coming up. My brain told me, "You're going to embarrass yourself. You'll forget your words. They'll see you don't belong." That was the script, the automatic loop. But now, with this habit in place, I paused. I took a breath, and I asked, Have I been in meetings before? Yes. Have I done well in them? Yes. Have I forgotten words and still survived? Absolutely. Is it possible they're not judging me at all? Yes. That tiny pause, those questions, disarmed the anxiety before it could spiral. You don't need to become fearless. You just need to become skeptical of your fears. This habit of questioning your thoughts is like installing a firewall in your brain. It doesn't block the thoughts from arriving, but it filters them. It slows them down. It gives you a chance to decide if they're worth believing. It's mental hygiene. We wash our hands to prevent disease. Why wouldn't we examine our thoughts to prevent emotional contamination? Most of us live in a trance. We think we're thinking, but we're being taught. The mind throws things at us, and we catch them without question. That's what kept me anxious for years. I thought every scary thought was a warning. Every discomfort was a sign. Every bad feeling meant danger. But most of it was noise. And noise gets quieter when you stop dancing to its tune. You might be wondering, can something that simple work? Let me ask you this. When was the last time you questioned your thoughts like a detective, not a victim? When was the last time you looked at a fear and said, "Prove it, that's the habit"? It's not about adding more to your life. It's about subtracting the falsehoods. And once I began doing that regularly, something incredible happened. My anxiety lost its authority. It still spoke, but I stopped obeying. That's the turning point. Not when the thoughts disappear, but when your relationship to them changes. When you realize that anxiety doesn't have the final word, you do. And that's what I want you to understand. The power isn't in eliminating anxiety. It's in reclaiming your ability to choose how you respond. For years, I was reacting to everything automatically. A feeling would come up, and I'd spiral. A thought would arise, and I'd assume it was true. But once I inserted this habit, this one moment of pause, this one question, everything slowed down. I started noticing the space between stimulus and response. And in that space is freedom. In that space, you can breathe again. You can look your fear in the eye and say, "I see you. I hear you. But I don't have to follow you." I'll be honest with you, this habit takes practice. It's not a magic button. It's not a motivational quote. It's a discipline. But like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And soon, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a long time. Calm. Not because the world got quieter. Not because your mind stopped producing thoughts, but because you stopped giving every thought the power to define you. Because you finally remembered who's in control. Because you decided to think on purpose. Some people chase healing like it's a destination. They think if they just meditate enough, journal enough, or fix enough things in their life, the anxiety will vanish. But healing doesn't look like perfection. It looks like presence. It looks like awareness. It looks like noticing the thought, "I'm not good enough." And instead of panicking, you lean in and ask, "Who told me that? And do I still believe them?" There was a day when I stood in front of the mirror and heard the old voice whisper, "You're behind. You should have achieved more by now." That voice used to crush me. It used to spiral into shame, regret, and panic. But this time I smiled. Not because the thought wasn't there, but because I knew it wasn't real. It was just programming. Leftover noise from expectations I never agreed to. That's what anxiety often is. Echoes of beliefs you never chose. Stories passed down from parents, teachers, and culture. Warnings dressed up as wisdom. Fear disguised as responsibility. When you build this habit, the habit of questioning your mind, you begin to peel those layers back. You realize most of your fear isn't yours. You inherited it, and guess what? You can return it. The brain is designed to protect us. It doesn't care if we're happy, it cares if we're safe. That's why it plays horror movies in our heads. It's trying to prepare us. But anxiety isn't preparation. It's anticipation without control. It's being pulled into imaginary futures, paralyzed by what might go wrong. When you begin to challenge your thoughts, you shift from being the actor in the horror movie to being the director. You decide what stays in the script. You decide what scenes get cut. This habit, is that true? Isn't just a psychological tool. It's a spiritual practice. It's a return to clarity, to silence, to sovereignty over your inner world, because the truth is, peace doesn't arrive when everything outside is calm. Peace begins when you stop believing everything inside without question. It's funny, once I committed to this practice, I started noticing just how many of my thoughts were completely false. Not slightly distorted, completely made up. Predictions that never came true. Judgments that weren't mine. Fears that belonged to younger versions of me who didn't know better. And when I stopped giving those thoughts so much power, I started noticing something else. Stillness, not the boring kind. Not numbness, but a deep quiet, the kind that's been there all along, underneath the noise. A stillness that wasn't afraid. That didn't need to prove anything. That didn't run when fear showed up. It watched it, calmly, with compassion, and that's when I realized anxiety wasn't my enemy. It was a messenger. It wasn't trying to destroy me. It was trying to protect me with bad information, so I listened. I thanked it. And then I made a decision. I'll take it from here. If you're listening to this and thinking, that sounds great, but my anxiety is different. Mine is stronger. I hear you. I used to believe that too. I used to think I was uniquely broken. But you're not broken. You're buried under noise, under beliefs, under automatic scripts that were never truly yours. And the first step out isn't some massive life change. It's one habit, one question, over and over again. Is that true? That's the key. That's the sword that cuts through the fog. Not to make the fear disappear, but to remember that you don't have to bow to it. And the more you ask this question, the more power you reclaim. You'll start noticing things. You'll be walking into a room, about to overthink everything, and suddenly you pause, you hear the old script. They won't like me. And you smile, you ask, is that true? You realize. You have no idea what they'll think. And more importantly, it doesn't define your worth. That moment. That's freedom. Freedom isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to be owned by it. Now, if this habit sounds too simple, that's exactly why it works. It slips under the defenses. It doesn't demand hours of your time. It doesn't require a guru. It just requires presence, honesty, and a willingness to become the observer of your mind. You don't need to control every thought. You just need to meet each one with awareness. That alone creates space. And in that space, anxiety can't breathe. You start to become your own safe place. You stop running from yourself. And for maybe the first time, you feel at home inside your skin. Imagine that, waking up, and instead of bracing yourself for the storm, you meet the day with curiosity, with strength, with peace that's rooted not in your circumstances, but in your awareness. That's what this habit gave me. It didn't change the world, it changed me. And through that shift, the world started to feel different. Not because it was easier, but because I wasn't fighting myself anymore. If you've made it this far, I want to ask you, what's one thought you've been believing lately that maybe isn't true? Drop it in the comments, name it, challenge it, start the habit here. Now, because this isn't just theory. It's practice. It's daily. And it works. So here's my final message to you. You don't have to silence your mind to find peace. You just have to stop believing every thought it throws at you. Question the script. Challenge the lie. And remember, you're not your anxiety. You're the awareness behind it. If this helped you in any way, give it a like. It lets me know this kind of content matters. And if you want more tools like this, raw, honest ways to reclaim your mind, subscribe to the channel. You're not alone in this. You're just beginning to wake up.